All right. So it is 1 or 2 p.m. UK time and 2 p.m. French time. So we are now kicking off the meeting. Thank you to everyone for being here today. Thank you to SDI and David and Apex for giving us this opportunity. Caroline Chauchet from Strategic Healthcare Advisors, and we are here to crack the code of how to enter the French market, particularly for medical device like the EFFIPERF from EFFIPERF. And we will hear from Sarah Jardine, who is here today, the CEO of the company, who will present our medical device, and we'll listen to the speakers today and we'll look for advice on how to bring our medical device to the French market. And I'm going to give the floor to Pascal BECACHE here, who is the moderator of the session today. Pascal, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy to be here with all these fantastic panelists. Listen, you know, it has been we have been through some great days here in Paris, in France, with two main events. First one was called Santexpo, which is a big fair that is dedicated to everything around healthcare, and especially for hospitals, etc. And there was another one that just closed 2 days ago, was called VivaTech. And I'm talking about VivaTech because it has been also a great success for health tech startups. Many health tech startups were represented from all over the world. So we have been able to see during these events, fantastic events, especially Santexpo 2025, we have seen a lot of very interesting things, and I would like to share with you, before we start the roundtable, I would like to share with you some key takeaways we have seen there. First of all, and it's not a big surprise, I guess, today we see the rise of AI everywhere. So, for instance, AI-driven diagnostics, AI-driven connected devices, AI-driven software, AI-driven imaging or post-imaging or imaging post-processing, AI everywhere. And even you know, taking care of patients with AI, for instance, you know, listening to the patient, determining the best treatment, determining the disease, etc., or help to the doctor to determine the disease, etc. So it's been the rise of AI, kind of a tsunami everywhere, but it was not the only one. We have seen also a growing emphasis on sustainability, and especially in France, we have seen that nowadays, if you want to be bought by hospitals in France, you need to provide some certification regarding environment, and procurement and purchasers are very focused on this. And there are also a bunch of laws that are very binding, and you need to demonstrate your compliance with these set of rules. You know, for instance, a kind of eco-certification for procurement. So big emphasis on sustainability. The third thing we can take away from Santexpo was that hospitals are grouping in France, and especially purchasing. There are 3,000 hospitals, private and public, but you know, if you look at public hospitals in France, that are the main parts, you will see that these hospitals are grouping for their purchasing. And in organization called Groupement Hospitalier de Territoire, territory, you know, at a territory level. And it means that it's a big opportunity for startups or for small and intermediate companies, but it can be also a threat, because if you are not purchased or referenced, you might be out of the market. On the other hand, we see also the growth of private hospitals networks. So on the 3,000 hospitals in France, around a little bit less than half of them are private. They are suffering from an economical standpoint, but they are very, very dynamic. They are very, very innovative, and they try to find new and innovative solutions and to implement them. So there is a big opportunity with these private hospitals networks, and there is also a big opportunity with outpatient care. Patient at home is also a new mantra in France, and there are a lot of services delivered to patients at home, and then there is a big opportunity for outpatient care. Finally, we can say that if you want to introduce the French market and to be more effective on this market, it's important, of course, to have a very innovative and well-packaged solution, but also to have local partnerships, because French people, you know, sometimes they like to be they like to speak in French. What a surprise! So having a French location, you know, having being able to speak French, you know, having your support materials in French is quite important. So partnering with a French company might be a very good opportunity also for you to become more effective on the French market. So having said that, I am happy to introduce you the topic of today's panel discussion. What are the lessons learned from this magnificent fair, Santexpo 2025? And what are the practical steps for a Scottish startup to enter the French market? And we will be happy to study a real case of EFFIPERF with Théard-Jallu, the CEO of the company, who is with us today. And to start with, we have a lot of great speakers here today, and I will start with some of people we have been able to discuss already. So let's start with Cécile. Where are you, Cécile? Okay, can you introduce yourself very briefly? You have the usual 20 seconds.
With pleasure. Thank you, Pascal. Hello, everyone. So I'm Cécile Théard-Jallu. I'm a lawyer and partner at a French independent law firm named Gaulle, Fleurance. And as part of my activities, I'm very much involved in healthcare and innovative project in the healthcare and life sciences sector. So very happy to be there. Thank you very much for having me on board.
Okay. It was also a big pleasure to have today Véronique Molières. Hi, Véronique. How are you today?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you for the invitation. So now it's a habit between us, so we exchange quite regularly. So this is nice. So I'm Véronique Molières. I'm the executive director of the Comité pour le développement durable en santé, so Sustainable Development Committee, which is a network of 930 hospitals, public, private, so involved in a sustainable development approach policy. So, and we are quite active.
Yes, absolutely. We've got also Elisabeth TEDESCO. Good afternoon, Elisabeth.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me to this meeting. So From my part, I have 20 years experience in healthcare industry and 12 years in ophthalmology field, in medical device, diagnostic, also software, artificial intelligence. And today I'm consultant in international business development for MedTech, medium-sized company also. And I recently worked with Topcon Healthcare Solution, which is one of the leader company in ophthalmology field. So I mainly worked in software and AI environment with them. So I'm very happy to be here today to share, all the great tips we have all together for e-people, all the MedTech. Thank you.
Yes, and we are very keen to listen to your experience. We've got Alexis Bruhat. Hi, Alexis.
Hi, everyone. So just to introduce briefly myself, I started my career in New York at Mount Sinai Hospital, and I was the asset director of the biodesign team. So it was a team of 15 people helping physicians to develop medical device, MedTech, and digital health. And I moved back to France 1.5 years ago, and I'm today operating partner for GMH, a market access company. I also co-founded a distribution company in France, and with another partner, we co-founded an investment platform, all for MedTech early stage project, I would say.
Thank you. Very happy to have GMH today with us. We've got Eric Del Cotto. Hi, Eric.
Yes, thanks, Pascal. Good afternoon, everyone. As you have understood, my name is Eric Del Cotto. I have a long career in medical devices, mainly for international companies, and I leaded, I would say, different kind of organization for innovative medical devices or value-added devices as well. And from the latest months, I created EFFIPERF in order to help middle-sized and startup company to understand and to come to the French market, but also to help a French organization to grow outside of France, and based on all my experiences and successes. Thanks to all.
Okay, and I think we will finish our French panelists with David Monin. Good day, David.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm David Monin. I'm French and European patent attorney working with ICOSA, a law firm located in Paris and specialized in life sciences, chemistry, biochem, and medical devices, MedTech globally. I'm working personally in the MedTech area. And we are working with our customers, usually small companies and startups, in relationship with all aspects of IP, from patents to trademarks and domain names and design patents and know-how.
Thank you very much.
To you again.
Now that you know all our panelists, I'd like to give the word to Sarah Jardine. Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Thank you.
And you've got a very interesting experience, so can you share it with us?
Of course. So it's lovely to meet you, and thank you for everyone, and thank you for the invitation to speak today. It's not often that a small company like mine gets to be in front of all these experts and get advice from them. So I'm really excited to be doing that today. As for me, my background, I'm an engineer. I've worked in tech for more than 30 years, tech manufacturing for more than 30 years, and I spent more than 20 of that working in MedTech and in medical devices, looking at retinal imaging products. So I worked for 20 years for Optos, who, if you know anything about retinal imaging, you'll know about them. And now I'm CEO of a retinal imaging company called EFFIPERF. And our mission is the eradication of preventable blindness. This year, 7 billion people will go blind in the world, and more than 5 billion of them don't have to, because 80% of the causes of blindness are preventable if they're treated early. In order to treat them early, you have to detect them early, and so that's why we use retinal imaging. And this is our camera here, so it's a small handheld device. And like Pascal was saying earlier about, patient at home is becoming a big thing in France right now. This is what enables you to take that technology to patients in their home. It enables you to take the care to where the patient is, And so we're really excited to be at the point where we're scaling our business to be able to bring our product to France and other European countries, as well as grow our business in the US. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today. And I've got my notebook ready to take all my notes so that I know what I need to do when we're finished up after this hour. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you maybe you were at Santexpo, Sarah, right?
I was. Yes.
What are your takeaway as a Scottish company being there?
So I was really surprised at how interested the people who were at the expo were in Scottish products. Right, I was surprised and excited. It made me happy. There seemed to be a lot of people who were making a beeline for the stand to learn about the Scottish products. But I think I learned a lot more about the healthcare system in France than I knew before, and I think it makes it really quite good for small innovative companies to be able to break into. I think the way that we're obviously in the UK used to the National Health Service, and whilst the sort of government supported healthcare system is very similar in France, there is a lot more private hospitals. And also with the insurance reimbursement, I think that makes it actually much more open to innovation, that innovations get adopted much more quickly in an environment like that. So for example, I was at a conference here in Edinburgh a couple of weeks ago where they told us, you can be looking at 15 years to be able to get an innovation like ours adopted across the National Health Service. And it felt like, because whilst innovation is happening all the time and it's very incremental, our health service takes big steps and introduces a lot of things at once, and that becomes the new standards of care. And it felt to me like the French healthcare system was more open to that innovation. And definitely the feeling that I got from the conference was that everyone's open not only to innovation but also collaboration. So I think it's probably, maybe the barriers to entry in that market are maybe lower than I anticipated. Clearly, there's a language barrier that we need to overcome. My French is well, I can order a meal and get a taxi, that kind of thing. But we're doing this in English today, which I'm really thankful for. But but apart from that language barrier, I think there are fewer barriers to adopting innovation, which is quite exciting.
Okay, thank you very much. Sometimes I feel a little bit ashamed by our accent, but the good news is we can understand each other, which is.
You should not be ashamed of your accent. It's very good. It's lovely.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's continue, and thank you very much, Sarah. We will come back to you for sure during this panel discussion. So let's start with Eric, if you allow me.
Yes.
We large hospitals. We have some large hospitals in France, many large hospitals, some smaller. We have very large hospitals groups. We like centralized tenders. What advices could you give to a small Scottish MedTech startups to gain initial traction, especially navigating these procurement barriers everywhere in France?
First of all, I would say that if you think that the French market is complex, you are absolutely right. But it's also full of opportunities for companies, as you said, that know how to navigate. This afternoon with this panel, I'm sure that you will get the right answer concerning the possibilities to enter in a smooth way in France. One of the points that you need to take into consideration that it's important to assume that your local business model, if you are in Scotland or whatever, in US or someone else, can simply be replicated with minor adjustment. Clearly, I can assure you that your success in France requires a tailored approach grounded in strong local understanding. Because I agree, Pascal, we have the structure in public, in private, and so on, but also you need to have a good mapping concerning I would say, the global environment. Take an example. We were talking about HAS, Haute Autorité de Santé. I think that it's equivalence of NICE in UK, but
yes, it's the HTA, yes.
HTA, which plays a critical role. Take an example. If you would like to develop in France a digital thermometer in hospitals, for example, one of the recommendations in France is to use Tempanique thermometer. It means that you can come, but you need to think differently how I will be able to go to France. Just an example. For that, you can prepare that about the recommendation from them. Second point, and when Sarah was talking about, I would say, her concept, is to discuss with the medical societies as well. It's very important to understand where we are with the solutions that we can provide. Also, as you say, to meet the different kind of key procurement leaders, especially in the public sector. As you said, Pascal, we have different kind of tenders. Maybe to remind you that tenders in France, it's official tenders, official bid. It means that it's not a license to hunt, like you can find that with NHS. By saying that, we have a national, I would say, group of hospitals, of a purchasing group of hospitals with UniHA, RESA, and UGAP, and with national tenders. The length of a tender in France today is between 3 to 4 years, and the breakdown is by lot. It means, like for example, Lancet, you have a lot of X millions of units, but you have only one supplier per lot. That is important to understand, because it means that if you are not the winner for this group of hospitals called GHT, Groupement Hospitalier Territoriaux, you can find a GHT with 6 to more than 100 hospitals. And as I said, if you are not the winner of this lot, you are not allowed to sell any devices. That is important. For that, we need to understand that and to prepare carefully the answer to this kind of tenders. Also, an hospital like University Hospital of Lille or whatever can go for a part of their devices to a national one, or to stay for another part of their devices to a regional one. It's a complexity to understand by tender where will be my devices, my solution, or my concept. That and other things that for which we need really to understand. The second one is a market with private clinics. As you said, it's more or less 1,000 clinics. And in France, it's important to know that the private sector is accounting around 55% of the surgical procedures. It's quite massive. And for that, you have two financial groups called Ramsay and Elsan, with more or less 140 clinics for Elsan and 160 for Ramsay. And you have two general GPO, Central Private Purchasing Group, called CAP and CASIC, and one club of clinic called Elpevia. And you need to navigate with this different kind of organization. But when you know the codes and it's too difficult today to go in depth about the opportunity to discuss with this group. But when you prepare carefully, I would say the introduction, it's not so difficult. When I say that you need to meet procurement leaders, it's important also to check your protocol, to check your device with the protocols that we have in France for different kind of activities, because sometimes the protocols that you have in Scotland, or you can have in UK or whatever, could be different in France, and it's better to assess that in advance, because it's always difficult to learn afterwards. And for that, take care about that. So, and for the rest, I would say, of course, back to the tenders, the weight of the price could be between 30% to 70% in terms of weight and success rate. Sustainability today it's around 10 to 15%, and the rest it's about logistic, quality of the device, and so on. But once again, you need to prepare that carefully.
Eric, may I, first of all, thank you very much for all these details. You know, if, of course, if it is a little bit too heavy, don't hesitate to come back. I said to our audience, don't hesitate to come back to Eric and the rest of the panelists to ask questions.
More or less the sum up of what we could spare today.
Yes.
And afterwards, of course, I will be pleased to back to Eric.
I have a question for you, Eric, a last one. Do you think it's important to have a local partner? What are the best routes of collaboration?
Yes.
Do we need local partner, local distributors? Is it better to have a first customer? What would you recommend from a very practical standpoint? You have been very practical so far, by the way. But what could be, from a very practical standpoint, what would you recommend?
So it depends, first of all, about what kind of segments. You have the hospital segment, public and private. You have the pharmacy segment, don't forget that as well. And you have the care homes, according to the type of devices. If you go, for example, to the care homes, my strong recommendation is to use one of the national distributors. It will be by far easier. If you want to go to pharmacy with your devices, you have 3-4 options like wholesalers to take a deal with the wholesalers. You can also have from the beginning, a kind of organization with independent sales reps. But of course, you have also a partnering with structure for multiple sales channels. You have this organization for the public, and you say that in your introduction. My recommendation will be to find a way to go directly, I would say, to a part of the hospital, for example, for eye surgery. We know it's very well identified, and we can find some sales reps who can go and buy, I would say, an organization, but it will be by far easier, or to take a deal with a local company who knows already, I would say, but can sell directly. My recommendation is not to go to the public-private hospitals via distributors. It's not like in Italy or in Spain, or in these countries, it's easier to use distributors. In France, for hospitals, clearly it's better to find a way to go directly.
Many, many thanks, Eric, for all these very precise considerations. So, of course, if you in the audience you are interested, again, don't hesitate to get in touch with Eric and all our panelists. So, very practical advices. Now I turned up to you, Elisabeth. So you have some very effective experience, especially in the ophthalmology space, right, as you mentioned. What would be for you, the most effective ways for a startup like the people or others to identify and engage with French distributors, even if Eric said, it's difficult to find distributors, or KOLs, key opinion leaders in this space, in the ophthalmology space?
First of all, I would like to say the French language is really mandatory in France because I have so experience of a lot of misunderstanding due to the language. So at the end, the business is frozen, not starting at all, and you don't understand why. So it's so frustrating for everybody. It's also very important to know the French culture, to use the right cultural code and approach with potentially distributors and also doctors. So my recommendation is really to have a partner inside the country. And to select the right distributor, I would recommend to focus on those specialized in ophthalmic devices for EPICAM because they visit every day the right target customer. They know the technology sales language. They are attending to the main French congresses. Should have an after-sales service, which is very important to have locally, and able to create marketing or help to translate in the French language all the marketing tools. All marketing tools must be in French language anyway by law in France. So, also distributors might be able to apply tenders if they are enough prepared, organized. They are supposed to know KOL or very ambitious and promising doctors, and they can also facilitate the collaboration with them. for example, a clinical study project, for example, which can improve also distributor confidence and sales team confidence in your product if you are going through distributors. And also the exhibition in ophthalmology field, which are SFO, Société Française d'Ophtalmologie, or ESRS and Euretina, which is a European Congress, which is sometime in Paris, are interesting to visit. So for distributor, use a pitch approach and how can I say, show how your product can be very different, how you can make the difference with your product. And then after, if you have to speak with the KOL, use the approach with the collaboration mindset. I mean, early access, co-publishing opportunities, or involvement in pilot studies. So this is my way to recommend the distribution.
Yeah. Thank you very much. These are very also precious advices. Sometimes, a startup that want to enter the market, they usually build, kind of a roadmap, what are my strengths, my weaknesses, etc., and where can I find pilots, proof of concept and try to do some early commercials. So what, how can a startup do that? Is it difficult to envision how to enter the French market? Is it, or, does it take time? What's your experience?
For sure, it takes a little bit of time because you have to prepare your market. But if you do not prepare it, it will be much more longer at the end. So I really believe that every journey should start with a clear understanding of where you stand, so you can plan the right strategy and choose the right tactics. For that, I like, for example, to use a SWOT, which is a beautiful tool, because in one slide you have a clear picture of your internal strengths, weaknesses, and external opportunities and threats. In my point of view, it is essential before committing any resources. Then I would like to say the second step will be to identify and segment the market. So I like to use the qualitative data to map your addressable market. Also understand the healthcare ecosystem in France is important. The role of hospitals, CHU, private clinics, public groups, GPOs. Do you need a local partner to apply to any tender? Selecting the right customer target is also important to think. I know by experience there are multiple for handheld camera. You can have ophthalmologists interested, optomed, orthoptists, diabetologists, etc. Consider also regional pilots, knowing that France is not homogeneous. Then the last step would be running early-stage commercial pilots, like a proof of concept, to validate use cases, clinical and economical evidences, to create your credibility in the French market and create impacting sales arguments. It's very important that. So you will need to identify and engage KOLs. And sometimes a local partner would be helpful for that, as they're already in contact with key customer. So it's important to select the right option for you after this analysis, and maybe consider to have one or multiple distributors, and think about the profile distributor, think about presentation approach, think about distribution agreement, etc.
Okay.
To conclude, I would like to say just that France is a complex but innovation-friendly market. So if you prepare well, it can become a strong early growth market without any doubt. But you have to prepare it well.
Elisabeth, just a short one. Does the startup need to really understand the French competition? Do you think the French competition has a kind of unfair advantage compared to a foreigner?
Absolutely. They need to understand the competition because as I know this product, I know they are. so they need to understand the difference there are between them and the other and find something sometimes it's very small difference, but it will make a difference even it is small difference. And even the others have more feature, are more mature, you can always make the difference. You can always find the entry market. Sometimes with little things, field of view larger, for example, comparing to the other. So it's absolutely very important to understand how the competition is organized. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And in a word, yes or no, do you think that if products are comparable in terms of quality, in terms of functionalities, in terms of prices, sustainability, blah, 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 do you think that a French purchaser will mostly privilege a French solution rather than let's say, a Scottish solution?
Oh, well, they have other parameters to take in consideration, and they have the economic part, which is very important for them usually, the feature, the clinical aspect. So it's not only French origin, which is the most important, I think. It's really also a concept. You can play with concept, not only the product. Okay,
so you think that startups may have hope?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Elisabeth. Cécile, thank you very much. Cécile, what are the most, you know that by heart, you know, what are the most common legal pitfalls that non-French medtech startups face when entering the French market?
Yes, there are a number. I would say, first of all, the preset idea that if they have already, in fact, gone through another legal system in Europe, that it means that they are compliant because in France. So, you know, because we have the GDPR, for example, or we have the medical device regulation. So it means it is compatible everywhere. This is true to a certain extent because we have these common rules. But in France, we have specificities. So we need to take that into account. And we cannot duplicate, in fact, a compliance program to a full extent. I would say, unfortunately, in terms of investment, but also fortunately, because as it has just been said, in France, you have also a lot of, or a number of regulatory opportunities, I would say, to get value to your project and to enhance its attractiveness. So earlier we talked about public tenders. You have to know that we have common rules in Europe about that, but we have specificities in France. And I would say, especially in the way you can negotiate with public clients if they are your main target. In the way you can implement specific terms, for instance. So you have to know that and to get the specificities of French law. For instance, if your IP is an exclusive one, then you could have some way to negotiate and to prevail over the general clauses of the hospital, for instance. So room for negotiation and innovation, and also have your own set of terms be implementable to some extent. We also tackled earlier the French language. In fact, we have an act named Loi Toubon, dating back to 1994, which obliges to use French with public hospitals and consumers, okay, or public entities, but especially public hospitals. So, in fact, it's not only a good practice to use French in order to open doors, but it's also a legal obligation to some extent. So, well, you will need to at least have double, bilingual documentation. Although a lot of persons speak in public entities nowadays. You also have specific rules such as anti-gift when we were talking about promotion activities. If you are dealing with HCPs, key opinion leaders and so on, then subject to specific conditions, you may need to go through the anti-gift system plus what we call the transparency. This is more or less kind of a sunshine regulation. So we have that, and it is specific to France. to France. And we also have the GDPR, but we have a specific data protection act called the Loi Informatique et Liberté, which is a good tool to secure the project, and in fact, which is adding or specifying rules in addition to the GDPR. GDPR, it's a regulation. It is supposed to apply everywhere in the same way, but in fact, it was hard to negotiate the GDPR, and the way out, which has been found by the EU legislator, is to leave some derogation zones. We have around 50 derogation zones left to national legislators for specificities at their national level. So in France, we have seized this opportunity of derogation, and in some sectors, and in fact, it namely applies to health data. So when you have and then I could put innovative regulatory landscape as well. So this is to be looked into.
Okay. So what are, in few words, sorry for that, what would be the main advices you would give to people, to Sarah, about compliance or data protection, etc. You mentioned most of them, by the way, but just a quick summary, very quick.
Okay. No, do not please be afraid. Come. It's fully manageable, and you should use this regulatory framework as an asset. And the earlier the better in terms of investment, because you will do the by design. Of course, not necessarily all the way alone, because some rules are quite complex. But in fact, it's a really good asset afterwards, and you will be able to market the legal compliance as part of your project. And a lot of countries now are being inspired by our European legislation, including French principles, by the way. So in fact, the fact of having already this language by design integrated in your project will be a weapon to sell your project. So don't be afraid, and also please keep in mind the fact that a lot can be found on the internet. For example, the CNIL is very, very productive in terms of guidelines, and you find everything for free on the internet. So of course you may need some legal or other advice to implement them, but a lot can be already digested and reviewed, at least as a first step by yourself, by your team. So yes, please use that as your strategy, I would say.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. So now let's go to ICOSA. Let's go to David. So how can Scottish startups protect its intellectual property effectively when entering in France?
Well, I think that there is few words, too much words in this question. The right question is, when entering any market, intellectual property should be already protected. It's not a question of France or foreign market, but just to remind you, talking about patents and technology, as soon as a product is disclosed, as a technology is disclosed, it means that you cannot protect it anymore because it has been disclosed. So intellectual property protection by patent must be made before launching the product, must be done, even before presenting the product to the market. I think that for EFFIPERF, I looked a little bit in the history. The first patent, EFFIPERF was founded in 2011, and the first patent was filed in 2012. And I guess the first product was launched a little bit later. And now we are 14 years later in France, and the patents are here. So the question for IP patents in France was addressed actually 10 years ago at the beginning of the technology. So that's the key point. When entering any market, the patent must have been secured in advance.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
There might be some differences regarding trademarks and designs, and maybe it can be related also to segmentation. Elisabeth told about segmentation a little bit earlier. You have this trade name EPICAM, which is protected against all everywhere in Europe with a European mark, European trademark, and that's the fine way to have a protection in France. But let's imagine that you want to segment and you want to find a new trade name like Frogicam for the French market. Then, of course, maybe you need to register that. So it means that your IP maybe will be adapted to the French market, but basically on the technology side, it must be done in advance. Last thing, regarding IP, don't forget that all your know-how is also intellectual property. And this know-how will be used when discussing with the distributors, with discussion with the partners. So you have also a strong issue with the protection of your know-how by contracts, by legal elements, and you need to take care of that with the discussion with the distributors and partners in France, in any market, of course.
Exactly. So, in some words, what do you think IP strategy can, what role IP strategy can play with French buyers, with French distributors and healthcare providers, etc.? Is it important? How is it important? How does it build trust, etc.?
Well, it's key. And in France, like in other countries anyway, IP strategy must be a support for business. So your strategy in IP must fit with your objectives in terms of business. And I would like to detail maybe 3 aspects of IP in this part. IP strategy means that you want to register some rights, you want to get some patents, you want to get some trademarks protected, you want to file design patents to protect your project, your objects. What is the intent of that? It's to make your product unique, because your IP rights, the final role of IP is to forbid the competitors to copy you. If you have the right IP, your technology is the only one available. If a competitor uses it, he is counterfeiter. So IP will give you this unique aspect, and it's of course a strong incentive for investors, distributors, and so on.
Of course.
But the back of the coin is the question of freedom to operate. You have IP, your competitors also have IP. You must ensure that your products, your trade names, all what you do is compliant with the IP rights of the third parties. So looking for the competitors, making sure that you are able to operate your product, to sell your product in the French market is also very important. It means also that you need to know your competitors, who is active in France, what are the ways to mitigate the risks. So freedom to operate will be a very important aspect for IP strategy. And last thing, again, IP rights are very strong elements in contracts. I heard a little bit earlier that discussing with hospitals can be critical because one technology will be kept and not the other because of the tenders. And to the question, shall the buyer prefer a French technology or a foreign technology? Maybe he will prefer the technology that is allowable by IP rights because the other one cannot do it. So if your product is unique and protected, it means that competitors cannot copy you.
Exactly. Thank you very much, David. It was very, very interesting, and you showed the value, the effective value of intellectual property.
Yeah, and really IP should be conceived as a support for business. It's not
Absolutely.
just having a pile of patents.
You have been absolutely clear here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Véronique, you know, we talked in large last time with that, but how important is sustainability and social responsibility in the purchasing decision in French healthcare institution?
Yeah, thanks. So I will be short, but to have a short view, so the Ministry of Health wants to promote environmentally friendly practices in general and reduce the carbon print of drugs and medical devices. So we have a roadmap about this ecological transformation of the healthcare system from now 2 years. And sustainable procurement is major in it. And top on that, so the Public French Health Authority, I don't remember the name, the equivalent in Scotland, which accredits every 4 years all the French healthcare establishments, has integrated from this September 3 sustainable development criteria, including purchasing and starting by prescription from doctors. And so establishments will therefore have to prove that action has been implemented. For the time being, this is an obligation of means and not of results. So we have stronger environmental criteria in public procurement, not just price, but also environmental factors. And so private sector is, as you know, so free to procure as they want. But they have also understood that in terms of attractivity of doctors and nurses, and so sustainability is strategic. So be aware that so in France, this environmental criteria represent about between 3 and 10% for some rare hospitals. So it's until 15%, but they are really deeply involved. So keep just in mind that ecological approach is really there in France, and we already know that regulation is going this way.
Okay. And if we take the example of a startup like EFFIPERF, you know, what are the practical steps and also what kind of, you know, timeline to align with French growing emphasis on this eco-responsible innovation?
So our Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Economy are totally aligned on reducing the carbon footprint of the country. So this is the first point. And so when the medical device already exists, which is the case, so maybe find the less carbon transport would be a good idea. And so maybe also the administration on one part, and also the main 4 procurement centers, which are already presented, so RESA, UniHA, LP VIACAP, so have created some very basic and general roadmaps to guide hospitals. That would be also an idea to have a look. So basically is subscribing to general sustainability, but some procurement center go further and use labels as B Corp or for some of them homemade label.
Okay.
If I have just 1 minute just to say that with the because it is a perfect day, because today on the website of AFNOR edition, so AFNOR is the national Association Française de Normalisation, which creates national and international standards as ISO. So today is published on AFNOR edition. So our index, so it's Sustainable Medical Devices Index. So we have created this index with the French Federation of Medical Device Manufacturers, SNITEM. This is about 30 sustainable criteria to help buyers to discriminate between 2 similar medical devices. So it's free.
Okay.
And it's open for everyone.
Okay. Many thanks for these hints and tips. Before going to Sarah for conclusion, I would like to ask Alexis, and I'm sorry, Alexis, we have a very limited time. Based on your experience with both US and French markets, what could be the most critical early steps that a Scottish startup like EFFIPERF should take to build trust and credibility with French hospitals and with French purchasers?
I will say something that will summarize everything, but I think it's like every country in the world. Just if you want to deploy your product in France, do that with French people. If you want to do that in America, do that with American people, because you, as a startup, you don't have time to learn. It's a little bit strange to think like this, but you need to survive, and you already have people who have the expertise to do it for you. And yeah, that's it. And again, I don't have no time to speak about the different options, but mainly as a startup, you need to think about your stability. What does that mean? Your first break even, and you need to think about your company in UK, and from this maybe see French as a I would say that a beautiful bonus. I'm not sure about this to introduce it like this, but like again, you're a startup, so you have no opportunity for a second life, I will say like this. So you have one shot, so you need to spend your cash in the right way.
And final one in 30 seconds less. Do you think that the French investors, French families, etc., family offices could help, foreign startups like Scottish startups to enter the French or to support the French market entry?
I would say yes and no. I think in France, investors are mainly not from the medical field. What does that mean? It means that if they invest in medical device companies, they will invest because they know someone that they trust, that let them know that it's a good opportunity for them. And earn this trust takes time, so I can say it. And but compared to USA, if you have a good product, you have already family office with people who are successful in medical field. So when you pitch a product, even if they have no idea about who you are, they will understand the product. So they would say, okay, I trust the product, I will follow you. Again, unfortunately, it's not the case in France.
Okay, sorry, Alexis. Time flies. And, but you give very precise answers. Caroline, do we have 1 minute to conclude with Sarah?
1 minute, yes.
1 minute. Well, the final minute. So, Sarah, what do you think? And more importantly, if you want to scale EFFIPERF in France, what kind of support would be most valuable for you?
Well, thank you. I mean, that was really interesting. I took lots and lots of notes there. And like I said at the start, it's not often a company our size, where only 4 people get to speak to so many experts internationally. So thank you for that. I think what comes through for me today is it's about finding the right partners to work in France, or to Alexis' point, in any country, right? You need to find local people who know the markets there. So, and I think that's what we need help with, right? Just like we don't have much cash to spend on any of these things, we also don't have much time to go looking, and so I think that's where organisations like SDI can really help us to find the right partners in these regions to work with. And I did see that FX put a note in the chat about what about working with big companies like Essilor. Essilor is so big, it's really difficult to navigate because I've tried. Yeah. So if anyone knows somebody who could be a champion for us in Essilor, I'd really appreciate that as well, just as a wee aside today.
Notes taken, I guess. Thank you very much, Sarah.
We do have some contact. We do have some contact at Sarah. We can exchange about that later on.
Excellent, okay. Thank you.
Okay, okay, very interesting.
With this, I'm going to steal the floor, Pascal, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you.
Thank you to David Smith and François-Xavier Dutrieux from Scottish Development International for allowing us to organize this panel. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you, Sarah, for being the case study. And a big, big thank you to Pascal for moderating this session beautifully. I would just like to tell our audience that we will follow up with some key points from these meetings and the contact details of all the panelists if you want to get in touch with them to bring your own medical device to France. And we hope to see you for our next event and hopefully to Santé Expo 2026. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.